At Midway USA, we put customers first. The Nitro Express shipping system is icing on the cake. It was a big investment of time and money to take super fast, low-cost shipping to a whole new level. The Nitro Express helps ensure same-day shipping and low shipping costs. We hope you enjoy the Nitro Express. We built it just for you. For just about everything for the outdoors, go to MidwayUSA.com. I'm Larry Potterfield with Midway USA. Thanks for your business.
Midway USA brand product designers have one straightforward goal: develop high-quality, technically sound products and deliver them to customers at reasonable prices. If you are immersed in the shooting sports industry and pay close attention to every single detail, you know our products are built right and stand up to everyday use. Who has shooting mats and range bag systems to hunting clothing and just about everything for the outdoors? Log on and shop 24/7 with super fast shipping. MidwayUSA.com.
Bow hunting all comes down to a moment. And in the moment, you want equipment on your bow that will get the job done. Trophy Ridge products are the tools bow hunters trust. React technology sights, rests, stabilizers, and quivers to help a bow hunter be successful in the field. And those tools are from Trophy Ridge.
Midway USA has a huge selection of rifle scopes, plus all the necessary scope rings, bases, mounts, and scope mounting tools to get you on target quickly. We've also got shotgun scopes, pistol scopes, red dot sights, and night vision and thermal imaging optics to serve a variety of different applications. Our offering of weapon lights and laser sights supports a variety of self-defense and target scenarios. Hunters and long-range shooters will appreciate our wide selection of binoculars, rangefinders, and spotting scopes from all of the top brands. For just about everything for shooting, shop MidwayUSA.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bowhunter Chronicles podcast, brought to you by Huntworth. Huntworth gear for all types of weather, all types of terrain, all types of budgets. It's clothing that just works. Check them out at huntworthgear.com. While you're over there, check out the new Obris pattern for waterfowl. Real cool pattern. Got to see that almost a year ago as they were coming out with that, and we were in on one of the photo shoots for that. So a lot of cool stuff coming down the pipe for the Obris, but they've got some great stuff over there on their clearance. Again, that Holton set is some of my favorite stuff by far. Those Durham pants on sale, $60, real hard to beat. Wore those all weekend. And for the stuff that's not on clearance, you can use code HNT25OCT to save 25%. That ends October 26th at midnight. So check them out at huntworthgear.com and get over there to Latitude. Check them out. If you haven't been following along and watching the Grit series, they just launched their last episode, and what an amazing series. Great dudes. And shout out to Huntworth, Latitude, and Big Shot, Genesis 3D for coming through at the Patreon hunt and giving us a lot of support for the guys at the hunt. We had I want to say close to 30 guys come out, and next week's podcast we're going to kind of overview kind of the goings on there, but what a camp it was. Great camaraderie, great camp, great food, 10 deer harvested, 2 nice bucks, 10 deer, 2 porcupines, 1 fall turkey, 2 dozen arrows plus released. Just an absolute ton of fun. 3 deer killed on film, at least 2 deer missed on film. Just an overall great experience, and we'll get into that next week. But this week's podcast, we've got Joe Griffin. This podcast, we were supposed to do this a couple of different times, but the schedules didn't align. He was on a grizzly bear hunt, a brown bear hunt up in Alaska, and Joe and I had the same unit, actually not far from each other, on a Michigan black bear, and that's kind of how we kind of connected. And he ended up killing a brown bear up in Alaska, and they killed a couple of black bears, and he killed a black bear on a stalk from ended up being 9 yards. And he tells that story on here. We talk a little bit of Michigan whitetail hunting in general. Then he kind of tells that story of that hunt and kind of all those goings on. So really incredible story. Joe's a great guy. And I know you guys are going to enjoy this one. As always, thanks for listening. Enjoy the episode. All right. So Adam back here with another episode of the Bowhunter Chronicles podcast. And the podcast here, the next couple of weeks is going to be a little bit disjointed. I had a bunch of podcasts like lined up, and schedules and things have gotten jumbled around. And to be honest, I really don't care, because these are great conversations with some really great people, and conversations that I want to have, but they may not fit right into that early season whitetail or any of the stuff that people are kind of craving at the time. But today we've got Joe Griffin on the line. And how you doing today, Joe?
Pretty good. How about you?
Not bad, not bad. I'm gearing up for our Patreon hunt. Like I said, we've got about 20 to 25 people, not including like the main people for the podcast and family, coming up to deer camp here next couple days over the weekend. So it's going to be pretty wild. So my head is just spinning trying to get all of that going. So
At least you have a cold front for it, sounds like.
yeah, cold front, red moon, like all the things that you need. The only thing that's kind of good and bad is that there's so many freaking acorns that you can't just get on that hot feed tree or anything. It's just going to be, you're going to have to look for some different kind of sign. So,
Yeah, we've noticed that too. And it's not like even the crop is that good. It's just very spread out, very spread out by me. So,
yeah,
interesting year so far for sure.
Yeah. So for guys that don't know who Joe is, I feel like you can't miss him because he's a freaking mountain of a man, and I feel like on social media you see him all over. And it's funny that we hadn't crossed paths really too much until this year, just because of how serendipitous things were. But my good buddy Craig kept saying, like, Joe, right? Joe, and it's like, no, I really haven't run into him, and you're kind of like one of these, I don't know, Donnie Vincent-esque guys, like very adventure hunting type people. So let's get back into like your growing up. How did you get into hunting, and what was that like?
I got into hunting in third grade, and I come from a very non-hunting family. Basically what had taken place is I had a friend, a school friend that I basically spent the whole summer with, running around fishing, riding bikes and stuff. And I'd hang out at his house, and his family was like, they were a very hardcore public land hunting family. The whole family hunted, brothers, sisters, mom, dad, every single one of them hunted hard. And they had in their living room a stack of VHSs that were all like the old school Primos, Truth About Deer Hunting, Truth About Elk Hunting, Truth About Bow Hunting. And I spent the better part of a summer fishing in the morning, watching those VHSs during the day, and then going out and fishing with Chad again at night. And there was something watching those films that I'm like, this is my thing. And I've never done it before, and my family hates hunting, but for whatever reason, like just seeing this a couple of times, I was so sure that it was my thing. And finally convinced them. We had as weird as this sounds, in third grade, we had a persuasive letter writing project, I guess, for English. And I wrote a letter to my parents convincing them, or trying to convince them, that I should be able to hunt. And threw out all the kind of standard points of conservation. And my mom ate meat, but she was against hunting. And like the meat that we harvest is out in the wild, and you're eating stuff off of a big cash farm that you're getting at a grocery store, and basically just killing it with your checkbook or your credit card. And put all these points out there, and they're like, all right, well, you did a good job posing this argument. we'll let them try it, and it'll be another phase that kids go through, and it'll trickle out and whatever. And it didn't trickle out. So very, very fast forward to now, 20 some odd years later. Ended up getting my dad into hunting. He's passed now, but we've had some great hunting memories together. He never hunted before, and my mom was a former member of PETA, and she's killed ducks and deer and very supportive of hunting. I got into the waterfowl thing for a long time, guiding and competition calling, and she was kind of traveling around with me through all these like weird goose calling contests that I was involved in, kind of like a soccer mom, and found like community in this other group of parents that was doing the same thing. So, and then now I've got a family of my own, and we all hunt really hard, and it's just kind of become my everything since that day. So,
And so in third grade, I'm trying to think of like the age in which that is. That's got to be like 7, 8 years old.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I was 8 when I first started showing interest into it. And then back then in Michigan, I think the legal age was 12 where you could actually bow hunt. So I had a few year gap there. I mean, I was chasing stuff around with a pellet gun and whatever, but the first year bow hunting, I took my hunter safety program in November. So it was like the day after my birthday, I took the hunter safety program when I turned 12. And then the day after that, I went bow hunting for the first time. But I didn't kill a deer until I was 14. So
Okay, and then so through that, was it your buddy's family that was like your mentors? And so you grew up basically doing that public land type, beating the woods up type hunting?
what what's funny is, and they kind of like remind me of what you think of with the public land guys of today, where they're like so secretive about their spots, and they were so influential in me getting into hunting, but I've never hunted with them to this day. So I ended up, Ross Graveling, who runs Sports Person Ministries now, and his father Denny were the ones that introduced me into deer and turkey hunting. And my dad had a friend that took us out a few times, but the guy that really got me into hunting and like took time out of his own season to get me started and to get my dad started, because he was clueless, um, was Ross. And then on the waterfowl side, there was a guy named Brian Walker that was just kind of a mutual friend that was big into goose hunting, and he was my introduction into that. So I owe both of those guys a lot. I still hang out with Ross a ton. Um, yeah, he's the officiant in my wedding coming up here soon. So
So in that, I don't think that I mean, that's a really cool story, and to come from a non-hunting family to be so so much so passionate about it. And I mean, I guess we could see it today with today's kids being like, I'm gonna write this long diatribe about why I need an Xbox or why I need a cell phone. Um, all of those same things could apply today. And you did it with hunting, and then you stuck to it. Um, and then did you at that time, or when did you believe that, like, because your career is kind of like around the industry and in that sort of field. So did you from a young age kind of set that as your path, like a pro athlete does, kind of in that regard, or how did that come to be? Because what do you do
not at
for a
all.
living day to day?
So um, to answer your question, no, not at all. All I knew is I wanted to be a hunter. I didn't have any like at that time. I didn't even understand what a career in the hunting industry looked like. Like I didn't know that the Primos videos that I was watching cost X amount of money to make and needed X amount of sponsors and blah 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 blah. None of that mattered to me. In some ways, it still doesn't. Um, what I do for work is I work for a company called Elite Outdoor Sports, and basically what we do is we're kind of the in between the brand itself and the dealers that sell something. We're that kind of relationship component, that sales representative or marketing representative for a lot of those relationships. So we've been working with a lot of companies for decades and kind of handle that relationship between, like I said, the dealer and the guy that makes the product that the hunters are buying. So And then on top of that, I do a little bit of film stuff with the Fair Chase, and that's usually for like Worldwide Trophy Adventures or Kafaru or some companies like that. But that's not a money making thing for me. That's a opportunity to basically do something that I couldn't afford to do on my own and turn it into a project so that I can go. So day in and day out, my job is Elite Outdoor Sports, and I've been there for 5 years. But it was never the plan. How it got started, honestly, was I did guiding for like 10 years. And I never even wanted to make that a full time thing because I never wanted to sour something that was so perfect to me, which was hunting, by making it a career. And I still feel that way. Like I work in the hunting industry, but I never would want to do video full time. Like 1 or 2 a year is about perfect for me because I don't want to ever change how I feel about the simple things about hunting. Like I still shake like crazy when a white-tailed doe comes by me. I don't ever want that to leave. I don't ever want to complicate that feeling. So I don't know if that answers that, but that's the
No,
word bomb you got.
no, and I like that. And the thing is like the the kind of like questions that I have that kind of like leads into that because when talking to you at like so what ended up happening is I run into Joe at TAC and we get to talking and he's talking about buying property in Alaska and he's trying to um, talk about like I was asking him about the cost of living, the cost of goods, and he's trying to relate it to somewhere here. Well, it's very close to a place that I'm very familiar with hunting. And so,
Oh,
okay,
I
we
forgot
got
about
that in
that.
common. And
Yeah.
then I'm talking about my bear tag and he's talking about, "Oh, I've got a bear tag for Michigan too." Well, we're just down the road from each other in the UP. And so it's all of these same things. So I'm just trying to figure out to relate from, you know, similar geographical areas to be like, oh, I'm going to go hunting in, Alaska for X amount of time. I'm going to go to New Zealand. I'm going to go and do this. Like, what is that timeline or the trajectory or the vision to say, okay, this is how I'm going to do this at such a young age, relatively speaking? Because a lot of this stuff, I think of things like that, like when my grandpa did them as an old man with a lot of money and a high powered rifle.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that
Yeah.
seems to be the case, right?
Yeah. So the hunts that are like, and most of these, I think all of them except for one that I've done live on Worldwide Trophy Adventures. They're the only reason why I'm able to do this stuff. I'm not a wealthy guy. I'm just not. Um, what the catalyst was for all of that was, and I'll just pull it out of the curtains and say exactly what it was. I used to work with a company called Huntwise that was here in Grand Rapids. Great people. They sold, and they had an initial investor that was Worldwide Trophy Adventures. So they had this balance of hunts that they had to use before the sale date or whatever. So they're like, "Hey, you helped us out a lot with this app as things are kind of getting rerouted to new owners or whatever. We'd like to send you on a hunt and make a film out of it to live on Huntwise's channel. So like pick out something that you'd like to go hunt and let's go do this." And this was right after I did a hunt with them that was a completely DIY, figure it out, low budget caribou hunt in Alaska where I rent a U-Haul and just drive up there. So um I was like, okay, cool. And then just shot for the moon. I'm like, grizzly bear, let's do grizzly bear. And there was nothing available for it. They didn't really like the idea of it at the time. So like, what's the other big one? And I again shot for the moon. I'm like, doll sheep. That would be a dream come true, and made it work. So at the age of 30, I was hunting doll sheep, which is super rare if you're not a resident to Alaska or come from a ton of money, which I am neither. But that video kind of jump started the ability to be like, okay, we could do something like this in a similar fashion and make something really cool that benefits companies and puts products in a cool spotlight, doing something very unique, and also be able to experience these things a little bit sooner in life. Because I've seen it too with the stuff I've done over the years, where it's like most of the clientele is in their 50s to 70s, because that's just kind of the time of life when you have, I don't know, your finances figured out and things are built up a little bit and you can afford to do that. But the other end to that reality is that your body's not what it was when you were 20 or 30. So I think if you can find ways to do those things earlier, you appreciate it a heck of a lot more. And the only way that I found to do it earlier, other than make a lot of money, is kind of build this formula of video to make it make sense for other people. So,
And so prior to that, and you said, when you were guiding, so where were you guiding and what were you guiding?
um, kind of a hodgepodge of stuff. Nothing that I'm doing now, which is interesting. A lot of snow goose hunts in like Missouri, Arkansas, Kansas, Nebraska. Did some waterfowl guiding down in Oklahoma. Um, a little bit again in Missouri, so like ducks and geese, and then some Michigan elk stuff. Worked with a guy for a couple of years, and guiding a Michigan elk hunt is kind of like glorified babysitting for the most part, at least the way that we did it. In December, they're just on the hay fields, and you're just kind of rotating guys through, and it's very similar to a late season whitetail hunt. Still very fun. Still haven't drawn that tag yet, but that's for the most part my extent of guiding. I haven't done much out west with guiding. I don't plan to. The only thing that might be on the horizon is doing a couple, working as a guide a little bit in Alaska in the near future. So,
Okay. Yeah, and I just asked because I know you've been hunting, doing some hunts out west and stuff like that. So why don't we dive into this year a little bit? So, here we are, couple days into October, and for you, it probably feels like you've been hunting for months and months and months and months. You've got a whole season's worth of hunts under your belt already. So, uh,
yeah,
how's your season shaped up thus far?
it's one of the busiest ones I've ever had. I think it's almost at it's at its saturation point. I don't think I could handle another one, as weird as that is to say. I've definitely overbooked myself this year between what I've got, what Lex has got, and Chase is kind of in his first full year season this year. But started off in the spring, did a bear hunt in Montana. I do that every single year. That's like a sacred hunt to me. I love spring bear hunting in the mountains. After that, went up to Alaska, and there's summer scouting trips and stuff in the mountains in between all this in the summertime. But went up to Alaska for grizzly. This is another project that we did with WTA and the Fair Chase. Grizzly's been my number one bucket animal for a long time. So went up there end of August and did that, and killed some black bears up there too. And then I had a bear tag here in Michigan, and I ended up turning it back in, which I never thought I would do, but just cramped here this year. And coming home with some bears from Alaska didn't sting as hard to turn that back in. And a 13-year-old girl ended up getting her first bear out of it, so that was cool. Lex had a Colorado mule deer tag. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get one on that, but she's got a first season rifle elk tag coming up here in end of next week. We both have some Western Wyoming mule deer tags. We both have some Montana antelope tags. Obviously, we're bow hunting right now here in Michigan. I killed a buck on opening day. She's hunting a real big one right now that she's kind of being patient on. And this is Chase's first year where he didn't do the youth hunt and is kind of going through the steps of a bow hunter of like, he's so used to shooting the biggest buck on the farm on that second Saturday in September. Now he's starting to kind of feel real bow hunting a little bit more now. So we're going to head out hopefully here tonight and give that a go. So, and then the rest of the year, honestly, is just a lot of whitetail hunting. I do a lot of thermal coyote hunting at night. I don't know if I'm going to end up helping out with any elk hunts at all this year here in Michigan or not, but something is always being hunted pretty much year round. If it's summertime, we're shooting coyotes. Springtime is obviously turkey, and then spring bear, and then always something going on in the fall. something out west, something here.
So I had meant to send you pictures ahead of time, and I had forgotten. But have you shot a Michigan bear, or have you killed Michigan bears in the past? Because
Never.
I know we had talked a bunch about it.
No, I never have. My son behind me has. He killed a big one last year, but I've only had a tag once before, and that was like 2015 or something like that, maybe even earlier. I think I was barely 20 and really didn't know what I was doing with it. I've had a bunch of buddies and other guys that are deer camp. We're kind of by Escanaba, you know where we're at, but um, that have had tags. I'm baiting bears. It seems like every year for somebody, um, but I've never killed a Michigan bear. So
Well, so we took our bears into the processor in Rapid River there. So,
yep,
um, and when my dad went to, you had been, so Joe and I had been talking about baiting bears because we're very close to one another. And he was telling me about bears in the corn. And that was one of the things that kind of like stuck in my head. Like if there was corn around, bears like the corn, something I'd never heard before. Um, and so when my dad went to pick up his bear, they were like the whole buzz in the processor was the DNR brought in a bear that had been hit by a combine, that the underside of its fur was gray, and they think that the bear was deaf. And the DNR estimated that it was about 30 years old. Its canines were worn flat. They sent me some pictures of the hide. They wished the guy said he wished he would have had a thing of the pictures of the teeth to send me, but I just thought that was interesting. I was going to tell you though because you were telling me about them in the corn, and they said the only way that it would have been hit by the combine like that is if it was deaf.
the other part too. So it's funny that you mentioned that because one of the farm that I deer hunt on that has standing corn every year, the guy that we leased that from has hit bears multiple times this combine. And I think what that area, for whatever reason, that county gets so wet in the fall that I think it pushes off their corn harvest a little bit later than normal. And we've seen bears go den in the standing corn where they'll basically bury themselves in the corn. And I think they're just such in a comatose in that denning cycle that they just get hit. I don't know if and maybe that one was deaf because it was so old, but on two separate occasions, I can think of stories. The guy that we leased from has hit them with a combine too. And we have the biggest bear that we have on camera has a giant scar on its ass from getting hit by one. So it's definitely a thing in that area. And that's unique to the UP because there's not a whole lot of corn. There's not a whole lot of ag up there, obviously. But if you're hunting around it, that is 100% king, especially if you have second season because that corn's good and hard by then and they can actually digest it.
Yeah, but like I said, it was just really interesting because I'd never heard that. You mentioned it, and then here we go. That's what that's what happened. So, um, but you came home with a bunch of bears from your trip in Alaska, and this being a bow hunting podcast, you killed one with a bow that was a pretty wild story. So can you tell a
Yeah.
little bit of that tale?
Yeah. So basically, um, we went there with the goal of killing grizzly was the number one goal. And then black bears was just going to be kind of like a bonus if we had time for it. Um, when we landed, immediately we got off the plane, we kind of got to like the main, they call it the roadhouse. It's where they keep all their supplies. And then you keep going up into the mountains after that, four wheelers. And from the roadhouse, as the outfitters and the guys are kind of getting their packs put together, I break out my glass because I'm a crackhead and can't wait. And I'm looking over the hillsides and way up in the blueberries, see two black bears right off the bat. I'm like, sweet. We can't hunt the same day we fly. So I'm like, we'll come back in here and get a black bear whenever we have time. And we're kind of talking at camp. We're like, yeah, we can go immediately start looking for a grizzly, but we know that those black bears are there and they're eating blueberries. And when they get on a berry patch that's good, they stay there. So he's like, let's go kill the black bear first. We get the skunk out of the boat and bird in the hand, whatever you want to call it. The next morning we kill a black bear. And then to kind of fast forward to where we ended up bow hunting was the next day we went way up into the sheep country area, found a grizzly bear that was hunting and chasing a black bear. We killed that grizzly, and we're like, all right, it's day 2. We got 8 days left. It'd be cool if the camera guy got his first animal ever. We said that kind of jokingly, like it's his birthday tomorrow. So we bought him a tag. And then literally the next morning, he killed his first black bear. So we're like, okay, we have 7 days left of this trip. We're tagged out with a bonus. So I'm like, I'm going to get another grizzly tag because you can shoot 2 in that unit. And we're just going to bow hunt the rest of this time because, like, we can't make this trip any more special or like successful than it is right now unless we kill something with a bow. That'd be really cool. So we spent the next 5 days looking for another bear, another grizzly. And we turned up one black bear way far out, and we're seeing moose and sheep and wolf, but just the bears kind of shut off for like 5 days. And we didn't see much. And then the second to last day, we saw a monster black bear 4 miles up this canyon, up the river. And in Alaska, you can tag down, essentially is the phrase. But if you have an expensive tag like a grizzly tag that's $1,000, you can basically put that on any subsequential animal going down. So black bear is $450, a caribou is $650. So I could tag a black bear or a caribou with my grizzly tag. And being the second to last day and it being a huge black bear, I'm like, let's go for it. So we bomb up there, and we're gonna make this is gonna be in the video, the grizzly video, but we're just gonna touch on it on that video, and we're gonna make another one in the spring that's fully explaining the stock because it was really technical, and I think it'd be kind of a cool video with like an Onyx overlay to kind of show where the wind was going and our strategy. But basically, we're on a hillside. The bear is on a hillside. There's a giant canyon in between us with a flowing river. So we watch him for like, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes. And he's just kind of walking in this 150 yard circle on this hillside, like steep hillside, just mowing blueberries, but he's not ever staying in one spot. The berry crop was actually kind of like our acorns, where it's not great. Everything had blueberries, but nothing had big concentrations of blueberries. So, or it was rare to find. They were just very spread out. So he's just walking this big loop, like a mower tied to a rope with a pin in the middle, just this perfect 150 yard circle eating berries. So like our best play on him is to go down the canyon, go way up the creek, up in the cliffy stuff, get the wind right, and then come in and get as close to that loop as we can. And we just have to wait him out for him to make that 150 yard loop. So we did that. Took us about an hour and a half to kind of get over to that position and then cut across. And we're sitting there and we're glassing. We're like, all right, this is the bush that he always makes his loop around. So we're just kind of waiting by this bush with the wind marginally right, the best that we could. And he just wasn't showing up. So we're kind of peeking up over the hill a little bit more and get a little bit more out in the open and aggressive, trying to find him. And finally we see him 400 yards further down this mountain, just kind of walking the other way. So I don't know if he got a little bit of our wind or if he ate himself out of blueberries there, but was just moving back the other direction. Sorry, my truck just shut off. So we get all the way up onto this ridge and go up and over the ridge so we can basically sprint in his direction out of sight and come up over the ridge roughly where we think we just last saw him. Dropped a pin on Onyx and said, this is as close as we can be. Came up over that, and we're peeking, looking for him. Same thing. We get a little bit higher up over the ridge, a little bit more exposed. Now we're just kind of panning around looking where the hell did this bear go. And we see him crossing the river and then coming up the other side where we just glassed him from. So again, I'm like, I don't know if there's no way he winded us. We're on the other side and our wind was good at that point. I think he just ate himself out of blueberries and was like, I'm done with this hillside. I'm going to go find the next. So he goes down 1,000 feet, up 1,000 feet, and then sits his butt down and just starts pulling bushes into his mouth. He found a good blueberry patch this time. And I told Jordan, the camera guy's like, dude, I'm gassed. Like, we worked our asses off to get to this first spot and we sprinted at him for the second one. So he's like, I need a minute to kind of collect here a little bit. And I'm like, well, I don't know how long he's going to stay in that spot. He's already moved 3 times in the last 3 hours. So we're only 350 yards away from this bear. I'm like, why don't you guys just stay right here and film? And I'm going to bomb down this thing and come straight up at him and see if we can make it work. And I put a GoPro on my pack, and Scout, the guide, was filming through an Allen on his spotter. And then Jordan's obviously with the big lens. And I go down and get up roughly to where I thought was close. And I kind of look back to them, and I gave Scout a orange stuff sack and a gray stuff sack. And I said, hold up the orange if he spooks or if he moves or something goes bad, and hold up the gray if things are still good. And I look back and I'm glassing back to them, and I see both the spotter and the camera pointed directly at me. And I'm looking at them through stabilized binos so I can like really get a good picture of them. And I'm like, if they're both pointing right at me, I gotta be close. So I kind of do like the little shrug motion to him, and Scout goes. So it's 30 yards directly below him in this cliff. So I knock an arrow and I kind of start climbing. It's steep, like basically just grabbing tundra, pulling myself up. And I come over, and you know that bear, that sound that bears make when they're like on a bait and another bear shows up? They do that weird little thing, basically saying like back off. It started doing that before I could even see it. It could hear me coming through the alders and up the tundra and assumed I was another bear. So I basically just kind of like played into that and tried to make that narrative in his head more vivid. So I started kind of stomping and moving alders around, and I had this black hat on and started like making clacking sounds with trekking poles, like another bear encroaching on his newly found berry patch. And came up a little bit higher, and I could just see the top of him, and range in me was 22. So I draw back, and I'm like trying to find a hole in these alders, but I can only see like the top of his lungs and his spine. And anytime I'd get below that, I'm shooting through alders, and it just wasn't working. So, and he's still like squared up, puffed his chest up, still thinks I'm a bear. So I'm like, I'm just going to keep playing this, and hopefully he just keeps thinking I'm a bear. And I rush right through the alders, come out the other side, and I can arrange him one more time before I could see clear to shoot, I thought. And it was 16. And I'm like, I'm just going to take a big step to the left and shoot. And so I drew back and took a big step to the left around the alders. And I realized I still can't shoot because it's so steep that like my cam is on the tundra. So I have to get closer. So I basically just crept up a little bit more, and he's looking at me, but he can only see from like here up. So I don't know if my black hat helped or if he just didn't care at that point, but I ended up getting to 9 yards, and then I shot him right through the heart. So it was wild. So he spun around, and he was quartering towards me because he's defensive, right? So my arrow went right through his heart and then came out right before his back hip. So he had some gut hanging out the other side. He runs up and goes up onto this ridge, and I still don't think he even knew what happened because he kind of looked back at me and squared up again like he was still trying to defend. And you could slowly start see the wheels falling off the bus with him, and he walked down the other side, crossed a little shale field, and then I could just hear him tumbling. And so I bomb in there and get in the alders with him, following blood. There's blood everywhere. And right as I get to where I heard the tumbling, alders just start crashing and breaking. And I thought he was still up and coming, but what it was is he died on such a steep, shaly alder patch that the weight of him, the dead weight, just caused him to kind of avalanche down the hill, but it scared the shit out of me. So yeah, that's going to be a tough one for me to top as far as black bear kills.
That's so wild. I have so many questions. But first, I guess, so you said that the bear that your cameraman killed was his first animal that he killed, right?
Ever. Yep.
Okay.
On birthday.
So it's safe to say that he wasn't much of a hunter?
He got his first tag, to my knowledge, last year. He came deer hunting with me one time. He's slowly starting to get into this, but he's kind of got this weird, cool but weird situation where he's been on moose hunts and mountain goat hunts and sheep hunts and bear hunts and Mexico for big mule deer, and he's never killed anything. So he's got this cool, unique perspective to these films that isn't necessarily like, he understands hunting enough to make a cool hunting film, but he brings an outside perspective and twist to it that I think is unique. Um, but yeah, he's never killed anything. So
Okay. Well, that makes a little bit more sense, I guess, because I'm just thinking of like the dialogue, like after, you're basically he's filming through the camera, watching you essentially like charge this bear and then shoot him. I can't imagine like what you're feeling, but like what those guys are feeling from however far away, going like, what did we, a guy who hasn't killed a whole lot of stuff, he's been on a lot of hunts, so that changes things like dramatically. But like,
yeah,
what did I just witness,
yeah, and I listened to some of the dialogue because um, Scout, the guide, filmed it through the phone scope, so I could kind of hear the stuff that they were talking about a little bit. And that's why I think we're gonna do like a second director's cut of just that hunt because it's kind of hilarious. But Scout is, I mean, shit, he's 20, 21, but he's been guiding in Nevada since he was like waist high little kid. So he knew exactly what was going on. And I think like the body language of the bear made it very obvious that he was not scared, being very defensive, thinking it was another bear. But yeah, even with the experience Jordan's had, I don't think he quite understood what was happening. And it took me a second even because I'm like, when that bear first started doing that little muttery sound that they do and clacking his jaws, I'm like, is there a second bear up there? Like, because I've heard bears do that plenty of times. But then I'm like, no, stupid. He thinks you're a bear. Like, obviously that's what's happening here. And then it dawned on me, like, oh, you can get close, like really close. So
And then what's been your experience like in close proximity with bears like that?
minimal. What this is same hunt. The first black bear that I killed, um, was, he must have just been a menace of a bear. And this is kind of its own story. I shot with a rifle at 350 and hit him a little bit low, so broke diaphragm, maybe the bottom of the lung, but lower than what you'd want even for a bear. And he goes into the alders, runs out the other side to 570, I think. I shoot him again, hit him square in the shoulder. So he goes tumbling down into the alders. We go up in there, and I'm kind of pushing my way through dog hair thick alders. And Jordan hears something in the alders crashing. And he's like, do you hear that? And Spencer, the guide, was on the other side of the alders in the tundra. So I assumed it was him. So I'm like, Spencer, where are you at? And perfectly in line with that noise, he said, I'm right here. So I kind of checked it off and was continuing looking for this bear. And then he comes full tilt, the bear. Already shot low in the chest and one right through the shoulder. And I literally just pull up, boom, shoot. And Spencer was way on the other side in the tundra. And that bear was like 5 yards away and came full tilt. So that's my only really close experience with a black bear. The majority of them that I've shot out west have been pretty far shots across canyon just because of the nature of it. But I wasn't too nervous about that situation because even when bears are defensive, like black bears, that is, not grizzlies, they posture and kind of show off so much before they actually clash with another bear. Like if you watch them on a bait, they'll square up with each other and kind of move their heads side and side and like really give every opportunity for one of them to back down before they actually go tooth and claw at each other. So I wasn't too nervous about it. But
That's
I'm
wild.
sorry. The first bear that I shot, the reason why we knew he was such a menace of a bear is when we were cutting him up, he's got the hole from my first shot, the hole from my second shot. I shot him directly between the eyes. He has a perfect hole right in his skull from when he charged. And then as we're cutting him up, I'm like, this thing is full of birdshot, like peppered. And the hide stuck into the clavicle, like in all the meat, just full of birdshot. And we're in the middle of absolute nowhere, Alaska. The closest village is 30 miles straight down river. So the only thing we can think of is that he was down in that village harassing fishermen or something. And they must have been close to this thing when they shot him, because it's like trap loads that are buried in his shoulder. And birdshot doesn't usually do that. So he was a tough, nasty little bear.
That's that's a crazy story. I don't know that I would have had the foresight to like stick it out. Like I mean, I guess maybe if you have like the if you had everything in your favor to just kind of go forward and just keep moving, like the wind's in your favor, he doesn't really know what's going on, but man, that's to have like I I guess like just the balls to kind of square up with a bear at that point.
I don't even think it's balls. It's just, it's a, this has been something that I think is a quality about myself, but it's also something that I'm criticized about, rightfully so, is that I get tunnel vision really, really bad. And if he moves and stops and it's a spot that I think I can kill him, I just like, okay, I can kill him. And I don't think about anything else. And that's gotten me in trouble as many times as it's panned out nice like it did this time. But I've chased herds of elk way further than I should have to get a shot. And then all of a sudden I have a dead elk and I'm 8 miles in by myself going, oh crap, now I got to do this part. Didn't think about that. So,
So with all this Western hunting, adventure hunting, all this things, how does that shift your focus? You know, so you're in between elk hunts and mule deer hunts, grizzly bear hunts. Where does whitetail fall other than, you know, taking the kid out? You know, you kill a buck on opening day. It's you know, no big deal, old hat, right?
um, no, so whitetail is something that's like very ritualistic to me, I guess. And I've never obsessed about shooting big deer. I've never really obsessed about shooting big anything, but especially whitetail, I just don't care. I just love shooting them. Um, it's not uncommon that I shoot a button buck. It's not uncommon that I shoot, like I did this year, 2.5-year-old 8 point, which is like, it seems like the same buck I end up with every single year. Once in a while, I will shoot a nice buck, or I've killed a couple really, really nice bucks. And it's not because it's a skill set that I've acquired. It's just that one happened to come by before a 2.5-year-old did, or a doe. I just enjoy shooting and hunting whitetails. Um, like Lex is better at passing deer than I am. I don't have much of it in me. Chase is kind of similar to me, where he just likes killing them. We just enjoy it. It's just fun. And that's kind of like how I like to keep whitetail hunting, is just very fun. So we love shooting does. We have, I mean, shoot, this is our book of doe tags for the given year that we start with. We really enjoy shooting them. So that's the best way I can describe whitetail hunting for me, is like, I love the Western stuff. I love Alaska. Those are the things that I think my true passion lies in. But if someone was to say, like, you have to pick doing something out west or not hunting at home all year, I don't know what the hell I would do. They're
So
similar, but
how do you feel about like I guess like the climate of hunting today and social media and all that stuff with everybody having to kill a big buck, buck shaming, and all all of that because I think the way it sounds like it, the way that we try and do things and the mindset that we have over here with the podcast and the kind of the guys we have around us is very similar. It's just go out there and have fun. It isn't like one of these cliche, like stereotypical, like, oh, hunt your hunt, blah, blah, blah. But it's just like go out there, have fun, enjoy it at the
Yeah.
end of the day.
That's, I don't pretend to have like any message or mantra that I'm trying to convince people of, especially when it comes to whitetail hunting. Um, and I know that in hunting in general, I came from like a very non-hunting place, and because I know how hard it is for people to get into it, I really hate the buck shaming thing. But even deeper than that, like if someone was happy enough with a deer, regardless of size, that they got excited enough to shoot it and put their tag on it, who cares? It's not your deer, it's their deer. It's yeah, the not hunt your hunt. I know that gets thrown a lot around a lot, and all these little taglines for every opinion and angle, especially around whitetail hunting. Everyone has a camp that they can belong to, and I think all of them are great. If you want to pass up 5.5-year-olds hoping for a 6.5-year-old, do it. Cool. If you're like me and you've done a lot of hunting and shooting 2.5-year-olds still sounds fun, then do that. And I'm not I'm not educated enough about deer habitats and the things that change in CWD and EHD to really say like this is the scientific reason why you should do this or why you shouldn't do this. I just kind of stay in my lane and have fun. So
Does that translate for you like across the country and world? Like, are
yeah,
you 8 miles in? Are you shooting a raghorn? You got any elk tag? Are you shooting a spike bull?
I've never killed a big elk ever. The I've killed some 5x5s. I've killed a weird spike by 3. I've killed, I guess all my bulls are 5x5s. Yeah, I got a half rack 5x5 one time. Um, when we went and did that caribou hunt, so that one I don't regret, but I do admit it's kind of silly. We flew up to Fairbanks, rented a U-Haul, drove 15 hours into the tundra, got there, and within the first 24 hours, I shoot the first bull caribou that I've seen. The first one, not knowing how many there were and how many giants were around, and they were just as easy to kill as the little one that I killed. I just don't care that much. I just like to have fun. Um, I shot the first grizzly that we saw that was legal. I wasn't waiting for something crazy. I just shot the first black bear that we saw. I don't know. One day maybe I'll grow up and start passing some of this stuff. But the reason I've never killed a big 6x6 herd bull is because I can't not shoot the 5x5 satellites that come in first. So the day I shoot a big elk, it'll happen, but it's going to be because the satellite didn't come in first.
Well, and my father-in-law, he always says that bow hunters are opportunists, and you they come walking in front of you, they give you that opportunity, and it's hard not to take it. And if you really do, if it does get you that amped up every time you see one, it's really hard. And I'm so glad that that's the way that you feel because that's the way that it is for me. And there's a lot of guys that just they can't understand that they want to. We always, my buddy Nate, he he's like, I only shoot 4-year-olds or older or whatever, and we give them a bunch of crap because it's like we don't know their birthdays. Like we don't celebrate birthday parties for deer. Like I can't look at their bellies and tell you I don't see enough deer. I don't play that game. I like going out there. I love being surprised. I love every time that deer shows up and I'm validated that they're there and that they give me the opportunity. I very seldom do I not take it.
Yeah, and I'm even like that with a rifle, and sometimes I think it's worse with a rifle because I'm like, oh, he's only a switch away from being over. Like I'm excited. I don't get a whole lot of like sometimes bow hunting. Like they work their way in and you get some time to think about it. But man, am I impulsive with a rifle. I've had more ground shingles rifle hunting than I have bow hunting. But again, yeah, like, and maybe that'll change for me someday. And if it does, that's fine. But, and I get how that does for most hunters kind of as they progress. And it seems like as much hunting as I've done and as blessed as I am for the opportunities I have, I would kind of expect that to happen for me at some point in life. It just hasn't. I just still like what I like. And that changes by the day. Like I guess rule that I have is if it makes me happy, I don't usually think any further of it, and I shoot. So I shot that 2.5-year-old 8-point on opening day. It looked like every other 2.5-year-old 8-point that I usually end up with one of them, maybe two a year. And then 2 days later, I had two slightly bigger 8-points come through, and I'm like, I don't really want to be done yet. It's not that I wouldn't have been happy with shooting another buck like that. I just didn't want to be done. I didn't want to miss the rut that's coming or opening day of rifle season up by Alaskan, which I might shoot a smaller buck up there doing that. I'm not ready to be done with that deer right now. Now, we're going to go out tonight. Maybe I'm done tonight. I don't know. Like I just go purely off the emotion that I feel in that moment.
Yeah. No, I love that, and I totally agree. And that for me is one of those things too, where it's rare for me. Like I've only tagged out with bucks in Michigan once, and to I remember shooting that buck, watching him walk off and fall down, and I was sitting up there, and I didn't even have a tag. I didn't even have a doe tag, and so I just took down my stuff. I sat at the base of the tree because the guys that I was hunting with were still hunting, and I just sat at the base of the tree, ate a little Debbie, and I was like, I'm just sitting here. I got nothing. I'm done.
Yep.
I'm done. It's over. So
Yeah. It is fun though. That's the biggest thing. I mean, all hunting at the root of it. The reason I do it is because it's fun and I love it. But the Western stuff definitely takes a different tone of fun for me because of the amount of planning and process that goes into that. Whitetail hunting around here is just straight up fun.
yeah, no, I agree, and I think for me the Western stuff is like the adventure, and not knowing, I mean, I just getting away from civilization, just getting out there, like the like great unknown, like actually being able to, I I don't know, like maybe feel free, maybe be unburdened. I don't know, but that
The
that to
thing
me is what it is.
that's almost like it's harder to get that experience now because of a lot of like technologies in life. Like you have service way more places than you used to, and now there's satellite texting on the newer iPhones. And I mean, we had Starlink in Alaska, which was both awesome because you can talk to your family. But I'm like, man, what I like about Alaska is that I can't talk to anybody at the same time. So it's it's difficult to get that alone feeling anywhere in life, and it's getting even more increasingly hard out west. The thing that I like about hunting out west is that I think you can replace skill set for hard work and ambition and drive and be more successful elk hunting than you can whitetail. Like the factors that go with whitetail is more like situational kind of pre-planning tactics to kill a big whitetail. I feel elk hunting out west, if you can run yourself ragged and just say I'm not giving up, I can run myself to death and kill a bull. Like I think I'd have an easier time going to Nevada and killing a bull than I would going to Tennessee and killing a whitetail. Just because I don't know. I think people look at Western hunting like it's this faraway dream and elk hunting is so hard, and it just freaking isn't. It just feels that way. But I really think I could have a better chance shooting an elk out of state that I've never been than shooting a decent whitetail in a state that I've never been. There's this barrier to entry around the West and mule deer and elk and bear and caribou that people put on themselves, I think, because it does feel like this big adventure, but it's not. It's just not as hard as people think.
Well, I mean, and that's why we do this kind of stuff, and to kind of inspire people to get out there and try it and try to, like you had kind of said earlier, like to pull back the curtain and say, if regular guys can go out there and do it, outside of, maybe spend a little money on a tag and maybe a little bit of different gear, it's definitely within the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I mean, everything in life's getting more expensive now, but we did a video not too long ago about like how much it actually costs if you wanted to just go and figure something out, elk or caribou or whatever, something that you can do DIY. And I think we had $2,800 into that Alaska hunt for caribou with a $20 a day U-Haul rental. And I mean, we weren't like eating well or anything like that. We had a lot of sliced bread and peanut butter and peaks and stuff like that. And there was nothing fancy about the hunt, but we also went and did a new big game animal for under $3,000. Stop going to Applebee's twice a week or quit smoking, and there's your $3,000. So
Yeah. So for that, where is that video?
That one is on Huntwise's YouTube channel. That's back in the day when we were still partnered up with them, and the sheep hunt is on there too. And then most everything else that I do going forward is on Worldwide Trophy Adventures YouTube channel. So like the goat hunt's on there, James's moose hunt, the lion hunt, the bison hunt is all on there, and then the grizzly hunt will be on WTAs as well, and that comes out in like a week and a half or something.
Okay. Before I let you get off here, I gotta ask you what your favorite bear recipe is, because you've killed enough of them now.
What are you whispering? Bear stew. Yeah. So Chase is back here. Bear stew is awesome. Basically anything, like you can't throw it on the grill and cook it medium rare. That's the only downfall to bear. It's got to be 160, 165 so you don't get trichinosis or any other type of parasite, which is something I'm struggling with right now. I got some parasite issues going on, but that's a whole different story. I love doing cheddar jalapeno brats with them. I think bear meat is the best meat to do a bratwurst with. It makes killer breakfast sausage, and I know this is all like really cheap answers because that's what everyone does with it, but I really think it's better than venison and elk for those applications. Pastrami is another killer one. The cool thing about bear in comparison to ungulates is like the fat on deer and elk sucks. I mean, there's no fat on an elk, but the fat on a deer is pretty much inedible. It's like chewing chalk. The fat on a bear is almost as good, if not better, than the meat itself. So, and there's so many things you can do with it. You can render it down and obviously like do like a lard with it that's really good. But if you just put a fatty bear roast in a slow cooker with cream of onion soup and some shallots and carrots and onions and potatoes and just let that baby roll on slow, that is a better application for bear than what deer and elk is, in my opinion, because of that fat. And especially if you shoot a fall bear, because then you're getting all the berries and stuff and that richer, sweeter flavor to it. So anything that you slow cook, anything that you smoke, for the most part, I say bear does better than any ungulate.
Awesome. Well, man, I appreciate it. I really am glad we were able to finally do this. And
yeah, sorry for playing cat and mouse with scheduling.
Well, yeah, as we've kind of laid out here, you've been a really busy guy. So I will let you guys get to the woods, and good luck to you for the rest of the season.
Cool. Good luck tonight, man.
Okay, thanks.
This episode is brought to you by Boat Trader, America's largest boating marketplace. Whether you're buying, selling, or upgrading, the Boat Trader app makes it easy. With the biggest selection of new and used boats from dealers and private sellers. Browse, compare, and even apply for financing. All in one place. Download the Boat Trader app and start your search today.
Join us at a Friends of NRA event where freedom, fun, and firearms come together like nowhere else. With more than 600 events held across the country, there's always one happening near you. From exciting games to exclusive auctions featuring one-of-a-kind firearms and gear you won't find anywhere else. Whether you're a lifelong hunter, a competitive shooter, or simply passionate about defending freedom, there is a seat for you. Visit friendsofnra.org to find an event near you and get ready for a night you won't forget.